Welcome to FearBound Stories. Please subscribe to the channel and tell us where you're watching from and what time it is where you are. Now let's begin. Jeremy had been driving for hours. It was the kind of highway that felt infinite. Two narrow lanes cutting through a vast nowhere. No houses, no gas stations, no landmarks, except for the mile markers that flashed by every few minutes, like reminders of how far he was from civilization. The clock on his dashboard glowed 12:41 a.m. The hum of the tires and the faint static of a weak radio station were his only company. That was when his headlights caught the figure. At first, Jeremy thought it was a scarecrow, a tall, stiff silhouette standing by the road with one arm raised. But as he drew closer, he saw the man's thumb jutting upward, the classic hitchhiker's pose. The man wore a long, dark coat that reached nearly to his boots, and a wide-brimmed hat shaded his face. Jeremy slowed. Everything in him screamed not to stop. His father's voice echoed in his head. "Don't ever pick up strangers at night. You don't know what you're letting in." But guilt tugged at him. The man looked so alone, so impossibly far from anywhere. He pulled over. The hitchhiker approached without a word, moving with slow, deliberate steps. When he leaned down toward the window, Jeremy finally saw his face. Pale, drawn, eyes dark and heavy, like someone who hadn't slept in years. "Where you headed?" Jeremy asked. "North," the man said softly. His voice was smooth, low, and oddly calming. Jeremy hesitated, then unlocked the door. "Hop in." The hitchhiker climbed in silently, settling into the passenger seat with uncanny stillness. He folded his hands neatly in his lap, eyes fixed on the road ahead. For a long time, neither spoke. Jeremy cleared his throat. "Been out here long?" The man turned his head slowly. His lips curled into the faintest smile. "Long enough." It wasn't the words that unsettled Jeremy. It was the way the man said them, as if long enough meant years, decades, centuries. Jeremy gripped the wheel tighter, his nerves buzzing. Every so often he glanced sideways, trying to get a better look. The man didn't move, didn't fidget. His breathing was barely noticeable. Then, under the orange glow of the next streetlight, Jeremy saw it. Shadows flickered across the car interior. The wheel, the mirror dice, his own arms. Everything cast a shadow, except the hitchhiker. The light passed over his hat, his coat, his hands, but no shadow fell onto the seat. No outline stretched across the dashboard. It was as though the light refused to touch him. Jeremy blinked hard, thinking it was a trick of his tired eyes. But as mile after mile slipped past, the truth gnawed at him. The man had no shadow. None. His throat went dry. He wanted to say something, to make a joke, to break the suffocating silence. Instead, he croaked. "So, what's your name?" The man's head turned toward him. The smile widened just slightly. "Names don't matter on roads like this." Jeremy forced a laugh, but it came out cracked and hollow. He pressed his foot harder on the gas, desperate to see another car, another sign of life. But the highway stretched on endlessly, mile markers counting upward into infinity. Then the man leaned closer. His voice dropped to a whisper. "You noticed, didn't you?" Jeremy's hands trembled on the wheel. "Noticed what?" "The absence," the man said softly. His dark eyes glimmered. "The shadow, or lack of it." Jeremy's heart thudded in his ears. He wanted to deny it, to laugh, to scream, but all he could do was drive. The man leaned back, folding his hands again. "Don't be afraid, I don't mean you harm. Not tonight. Not tonight." The words rattled in Jeremy's skull like loose bolts. He swallowed, staring straight ahead. willing the highway to end. But the road seemed to stretch longer, the distance between mile markers widening. His headlights illuminated nothing but asphalt and the looming figure beside him. At last, a glow appeared on the horizon. Relief surged through Jeremy as neon signs came into view, a truck stop, glowing like salvation in the night. He pulled into the lot, gravel crunching under the tires, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. He cut the engine and turned to tell the man this was his stop. The seat was empty. Jeremy froze. He hadn't heard the door open. The handle hadn't moved. The seatbelt was still buckled. But the hitchhiker was gone. The air inside the car felt heavier, colder. Jeremy's eyes darted across the lot. Only a few trucks idling. No sign of the pale man in the dark coat. Then he saw it. On the inside of his windshield, faintly scrawled in condensation, were 3 words. "See you north." Jeremy scrambled out of the car, chest heaving, staring at the message. When he wiped the glass clean, the words smeared but didn't vanish. They sank into the glass like scars. He never drove that stretch of highway again. But sometimes, late at night, when he's on a back road and the beams of his headlights carve a lonely path ahead, Jeremy swears he sees a figure at the roadside. Tall, pale, wearing a long coat, thumbs stuck out in the dark. And though he never stops anymore, sometimes, just for a moment, he swears he sees something impossible in his rearview mirror. A man sitting in the back seat. And still, even there, he casts no shadow. Alex had been on the road since sunset, and by the time the clock on his dashboard flicked to 2:57 a.m., his whole body ached with fatigue. The hum of the tires had blended into a kind of white noise, hypnotic, lulling him into the edge of sleep. His vision blurred. The world narrowed down to headlights, asphalt, and the broken rhythm of white dashed lines sliding under his wheels. Then, out of the dark, the green sign rose like an answered prayer. "Rest area, 1 mile." His chest loosened. Finally, a break. He told himself he'd park, splash water on his face, maybe grab something from a vending machine and push on. Just 10 minutes to reset. The exit ramp curved off into silence. At the bottom sat a squat concrete building, plain and lifeless beneath a buzzing orange lamp. A row of bathroom doors, each painted a peeling dull blue, lined the front wall. 3 vending machines stood humming off to the side. The lot was empty. No trucks, no cars, just him. When Alex stepped out, the air felt heavy, muffled, as if sound didn't want to travel more than a few feet. He walked into the men's room. The stink of bleach clung to the damp concrete walls. Fluorescent lights flickered and hummed overhead like sick insects. The mirror was cracked, his own exhausted reflection staring back at him. He cupped his hands, splashed water onto his face, and whispered to himself, 10 minutes, then go. But when he stepped back outside, something was wrong. The vending machines weren't 3 anymore. There were 5 now, lined up like duplicates. The building seemed longer. The row of bathroom doors stretched farther than before. 10 doors, then 15, each identical. He frowned, shook his head, muttered, "You're tired." But when he turned to find his car, his chest froze. It was gone. He ran across the lot, eyes scanning wildly. No familiar dent, no license plate, just endless rows of cracked asphalt repeating into the dark. Every painted line looked the same. Every lamp flickered in the same rhythm. He ran harder, but the building seemed to stretch with him, the bathroom doors multiplying. His breath grew ragged. His footsteps echoed too loudly, bouncing back from the walls like a mocking chorus. That was when he saw it, one of the bathroom doors slightly ajar. A faint golden light glowed inside, softer than the harsh fluorescence. His skin prickled, but he stepped closer. He pushed it open. Inside wasn't a bathroom. It was another hallway. The same concrete walls, the same flickering lights. More doors stretching on and on. The hum inside was louder, vibrating through his skull. He stumbled back and slammed the door shut. When he turned around, his blood iced. He wasn't alone anymore. Across the lot, standing near the vending machines, was a man. Tall, still, dressed neatly in a red polo tucked into gray slacks. His name tag read Joe, though the last name blurred like smudged ink. His hair was tidy, his smile small and polite, a customer service smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You look tired," Joe said calmly, his voice carrying too clearly across the silent lot. "Happens to people who wander too far." Alex's throat was dry. What is this place?" Joe tilted his head. "A rest area." His smile twitched. "But not every door leads back out." Alex's heart thudded. "Then, how do I leave?" Joe's eyes lingered on him with something like pity. "You'll have to choose. Pick the wrong door and it might take you back. Pick the right one." His smile sharpened. "Well, you won't like it." Alex staggered toward the line of doors again, ears straining. Behind most of them was the same flat fluorescent hum, but one was different. Lower, deeper, like a cave breathing. His hand shook as he touched the knob. Cold condensation slicked his palm. He looked back. Joe was still there, motionless beneath the lamp, hands folded neatly, smile steady. Alex swallowed hard and pushed the door open. Cold night air rushed in. The lot was back to normal, just one building, 3 vending machines. His car sat 10 feet away, glistening with dew. Relief struck so hard his knees nearly gave. He ran to the car, fumbled with the handle, climbed in, and slammed the lock. His chest heaved as the engine roared to life. The dashboard clock read 3:05. For a long moment, he couldn't bring himself to look back. But finally, trembling, he glanced toward the vending machines. Joe was still there, still smiling, still watching. Alex tore out of the lot, gravel spitting under his tires, back onto the highway. He promised himself he'd never stop again. But 20 miles later, his stomach sank as the dark swallowed his headlights, because there it was again. A green sign rising from the shoulder. Rest area, 1 mile. The forest had swallowed the road whole. Ethan had been driving since late evening, his GPS guiding him down Route 6, a highway notorious for being long, isolated, and cruelly empty. By midnight, he hadn't passed another car in nearly an hour. The woods pressed close on both sides, thick pine trees standing like watchmen, their branches knitting overhead so tightly that the sky was little more than a smudge of stars. His dashboard clock glowed 12:47 a.m. The car heater rattled softly. He rubbed his eyes, fighting fatigue. That's when he heard it. At first he thought it was the radio, a bit of static catching a human note. But when he turned the dial down, the sound grew clearer. A baby crying. It was faint, carried on the wind but unmistakable. High, sharp wails, desperate and real. Ethan's stomach knotted. There were no houses out here, no rest stops, no reason for an infant to be on this stretch of road. He slowed, headlights cutting deeper into the fog. The cries grew louder. And then he saw it. On the gravel shoulder, half hidden in shadow, sat a baby carrier. Ethan braked hard. The tires screeched. The seatbelt locked across his chest. His car rolled to a stop a few yards ahead, the headlights throwing the object into clarity. It was exactly what it looked like, a small plastic carrier facing the woods. A blanket was draped inside. The wailing came from within. For a long moment, Ethan sat frozen, hands gripping the wheel. Everything in him screamed that it was wrong, that it shouldn't be there, that this was something he should not approach. But another part of him, stronger, louder, whispered, "What if it's real? What if some parent abandoned their child here? What if you drive away and it dies?" Cursing under his breath, he shut off the engine, grabbed his flashlight, and stepped into the cold. The forest air felt thick, pressing against his skin. The crying hadn't stopped. He approached cautiously. Gravel crunched under his boots, far too loud in the silence. His flashlight beam shook over the carrier. Inside, a baby squirmed beneath the blanket. Tiny fists waved. The wailing was sharp and ragged. Its little face was red, eyes screwed shut. Ethan's chest seized. It looked real, too real. He crouched, heart hammering. Hey, it's okay," he whispered, reaching for the handle. The crying stopped. Instant silence. The baby blinked up at him, suddenly calm. Its eyes opened, wide, too wide, reflecting the light in a way that wasn't natural. Its mouth stretched open. What came out was not a cry, but a wet, rattling hiss. Ethan jerked back, falling onto the gravel. His flashlight clattered, beam skittering over the carrier. For a fraction of a second, the baby was gone. The blanket sagged flat. Then came the crunch. Behind him, he spun, chest heaving. His light caught something moving at the tree line. A figure stood among the pines. It was tall, impossibly tall. Its limbs bent wrong, elbows and knees twisted at unnatural angles. The beam swept its face, and Ethan's stomach lurched. There was no face, just pale, smooth skin stretched tight, blank except for a hole where the mouth should be. A black, yawning pit. The hiss poured out louder now, vibrating the air, rattling the leaves. Ethan scrambled to his feet, sprinted to his car, and dove inside. He slammed the locks, turned the key, and the engine roared to life. His headlights lit the road, and the carrier, it was still there, still on the shoulder, but now it was facing him. The blanket inside shifted. Something moved beneath it. The hiss filled the car, though the windows were sealed. God, no! Ethan slammed the gear into drive. Tires squealed as he tore down the road, eyes locked forward, refusing to look back. His chest ached, his breath ragged. He didn't slow for miles. His knuckles were white on the wheel. But then he heard it again. The crying. At first faint, then louder. His heart stuttered. He forced himself to glance into the rearview mirror. The baby carrier sat in the middle of his back seat. The blanket writhed. Ethan screamed, swerved, nearly clipping the guardrail. He stomped the brakes, skidding to a stop on the shoulder. He flung the back door open and froze. Empty. No carrier, no blanket, no baby. He sagged against the frame, chest heaving. Then he saw it. Tiny wet footprints, leading across the back seat, over the headrest, up the ceiling. He staggered back. The footprints trailed up toward the roof of the cars and disappeared. The woods pressed closer. The night seemed to hold its breath. Ethan forced himself back into the driver's seat, shaking. He drove the rest of Route 6 at 90 miles an hour, refusing to look in the mirrors, refusing to listen. When dawn broke, he finally stopped at a gas station. His hands shook as he fumbled with the pump. The attendant gave him a strange look, then walked around to wipe down his back window. "Got kids?" the man asked casually. Ethan froze. "No." The attendant frowned, holding up his rag. "Weird. There are tiny handprints all over your glass." Derek had been a long-haul trucker for almost 15 years, and in that time he thought he'd seen everything the highways had to offer. Strange hitchhikers, ghostly fog banks, abandoned cars in the middle of nowhere, all of it. But nothing unnerved him like that night on Route 50. He'd left the truck stop just outside Carson at dusk, coffee thermos steaming in the cup holder, the familiar low rumble of his rig beneath him. The run was simple. One stayed over, no complications. But as the night stretched on, the highway became emptier, lonelier. By midnight, there wasn't another set of headlights in sight. Then he noticed it. In his side mirror, a pair of headlights blinked on far behind him. At first, he thought nothing of it. Plenty of truckers ran the late-night routes. But as the miles rolled by, the light stayed exactly the same distance back. Not gaining, not falling, just following. After 20 minutes, Derek's nerves prickled. He slowed slightly. The headlights slowed too. He sped up. So did they. Finally, on a long straight stretch, the truck pulled into the other lane and drew closer. Derek glanced over, expecting to nod at a fellow driver. But what pulled alongside wasn't like any rig he'd ever seen. It was huge, older, maybe a decade or two out of date, the kind of model you didn't see much anymore. Its cab was painted black, dull under the moonlight. But what froze Derek's blood were the windows. Every single one was covered. The windshield, the side windows, even the tiny sleeper cab glass in the back. Thick, dark coverings, maybe paint, maybe heavy fabric glued from the inside, hid any view of the driver. It was like the truck was blind, yet it moved with eerie precision. The vehicle roared beside him, its engine deeper, throatier, but wrong somehow. Too loud, too uneven, like breathing instead of machinery. Derek tried to peer through the coverings, searching for a gap, a shadow of whoever was inside. Nothing. Just that black matte surface reflecting a warped version of his own headlights. The covered truck matched his speed exactly. For a full minute, the two rigs thundered side by side, the lonely highway shuddering beneath them. Then Derek saw it. Movement. Behind the covering, something shifted. Not a silhouette like a driver, something bigger, bulkier. It pressed against the fabric for a moment, stretching it outward, like a face trying to push through. Derek's gut clenched. He stomped the accelerator, his rig whining in protest. The black truck responded instantly, surging forward to stay level. The road narrowed into a bridge crossing, guardrails flashing in his headlights. Derek's rig rattled over the concrete. The covered truck clung to him, never drifting an inch. Then its headlights flicked off. Total darkness beside him. Only the groan of metal, the roar of its engine breathing in rhythm with his own pulse. Jesus Christ, Derek muttered, gripping the wheel until his knuckles blanched. He floored it, desperate to put distance between them. When the bridge ended and the road widened again, Derek risked a glance. The black truck was gone. Relief surged through him. He laughed shakily, muttered, "Get a grip, man." But a minute later, his side mirror glowed. The headlights were back. Closer now. They surged up behind him, so close the glare flooded his cab. Derek's CB crackled suddenly, though no one had used that channel all night. A voice hissed through, low and distorted. "Don't look in the mirrors." Derek froze. His hands shook on the wheel. He reached instinctively to switch the channel, but the radio knob wouldn't move. Stuck. The headlights flared brighter. His side mirror rattled violently as if something enormous pressed against it from behind. He couldn't help himself. He looked. For a split second, the mirror didn't show the truck. It showed dozens of pale faces crammed together, pressed against glass that wasn't there. Mouths open in silent screams, eyes wide, unblinking. Their hands clawed at the inside of the reflection, leaving streaks that shimmered like breath on cold glass. Derek tore his eyes forward, choking on his own breath. The highway ahead twisted through forest, shadows crowding closer. His headlights cut only a narrow path, but he could feel the other truck there, just behind, pushing him, hurting him. Another voice whispered through the CB, softer this time, almost pleading. "Pull over." He shook his head violently. No way. The whisper grew louder. "Pull over." Then a chorus joined it, layer upon layer of voices, all overlapping, all begging in tones of agony. Pull over, please, pull over. Derek's chest heaved, his vision blurred. He pressed the pedal to the floor. His rig roared, the speedometer needle climbing past safe limits. The highway straightened, and for a moment he thought he'd lost it. Then from nowhere, the black truck loomed in front of him. No approach, no passing. Just there, suddenly its blank windows filling his view. Derek screamed, wrenched the wheel, his rig careening onto the shoulder. Tires screamed. Sparks spat from the guardrail. Somehow, he kept it upright, shuddering to a stop half a mile down. His hands trembled as he sat in the silence, sweat dripping down his temples. The road ahead was empty, the night still. Slowly, shakily, he pulled back onto the highway, driving slower now, every nerve frayed. Hours later, as dawn painted the horizon gray, he reached another truck stop. He staggered inside, ordered a coffee with shaking hands. The cashier, a gray-haired woman with sharp eyes, watched him carefully. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said. Derek tried to laugh, but it came out broken. "Something like that." The woman's gaze darkened. She leaned in and lowered her voice. "You didn't see a black rig out there, did you? Windows all covered?" Derek froze. "You know about it?" She nodded slowly. "Drivers whisper about it. Some say it's a hearse that never made it off the road. Some say it's a prison transport that burned, and the souls are still trapped inside. Either way," she paused, eyes hard, "if you see it again, don't let it pass you. Don't let it follow you. And whatever you do," her voice dropped to a whisper, "and don't look in the mirrors." Caleb had been pushing his limits for days. A cross-country haul, 3 deadlines missed already, and a boss who didn't believe in sleep schedules. His body screamed for rest, but he kept telling himself he could manage just a few more hours behind the wheel. By the time the clock on the dash glowed 2:14 a.m., his eyelids felt like lead. The world outside his headlights was absolute darkness. No towns, no houses, not even the glow of another car for over an hour. Then the low fuel light blinked on. Caleb cursed under his breath, knuckles tightening on the wheel. He hadn't seen a gas station since dusk. Out here, running out meant sleeping in a dead car until morning, if he was lucky. As his anxiety built, a glow appeared on the horizon. Neon. He almost laughed in relief as the shape of a gas station emerged. One lonely pump under a canopy, a flickering sign that simply read, "Fuel," and a squat brick building with grime-streaked windows. The place looked abandoned, forgotten by time, but the lights were on. Caleb pulled up, killed the engine, and stepped into the heavy silence. The air smelled of damp asphalt and gasoline. He slid his card at the pump. Nothing. Dead. He sighed, ran a hand through his hair, and pushed open the glass door to the station. The bell jingled. Inside, the air was warmer, humming with old refrigerators. The place was tidy but worn down. Faded chip bags, dust-lined motor oil bottles, a soda machine with a rattling compressor. Behind the counter stood the attendant, a man in his mid-40s, hair thinning but neatly combed back. He wore a faded red polo tucked into slacks, and on his chest, a plastic tag simply read, "Tom." His smile was polite, practiced. "Evening, Caleb," he said. Caleb froze. "What? Long night?" Tom asked, tilting his head sympathetically. Caleb's pulse jumped. "Do I know you?" Tom shook his head. "Not really, but I know you." The words dropped into the air like stones. Caleb forced a laugh. Right. Look, pump's not working. Can I pay inside? Of course, Tom said smoothly. Pump 4's yours. Tank's nearly dry. You've got about a quarter gallon left. You wouldn't have made it 10 more miles. Caleb's stomach twisted. How do you know that? Tom's smile never changed. It's my job. The words sounded rehearsed, as though he'd said them many times before. Caleb hurried back outside, slid the nozzle into his car, and listened to the rattle of fuel pumping. His eyes kept flicking to the front window. Tom stood behind the glass, watching him. Not moving, not blinking, just watching. When the tank was full, Caleb forced himself back inside. Tom rang him up, hands calm and precise on the register. Big drive ahead of you, Tom said conversationally. But don't worry, you'll get through the storm. Caleb stiffened. What storm? Tom's smile sharpened. The one waiting past mile marker 72, you'll see it. Caleb's throat dried. All right, seriously, how do you know my name, my car, my route? Tom slid the receipt across the counter, cutting him off. His voice was firmer now. Safe travels, Caleb. Not a suggestion, a command. Caleb snatched the slip, shoved it into his pocket, and left. The bell jingled softly behind him, almost mocking. Back in his car, he sat gripping the wheel. His breath came fast, shallow. He told himself the guy must have glanced at his card info. That was it. Nothing supernatural, nothing weird. But unease coiled in his gut as he pulled back onto the highway. The night pressed heavier now. The trees along the road seemed to lean closer, their shadows long fingers reaching into the asphalt. 20 minutes later, raindrops spattered the windshield. Then the sky split open. A torrential downpour slammed the roof. Wipers fought against it, useless. The storm. Exactly as Tom had said. Caleb's chest tightened. He leaned forward, headlights carving through the sheets of water. Then he saw them. Hazards blinking in the distance. A car lay overturned across the road, roof crushed, glass shattered. He swerved hard, tires screeching, barely missing the wreck. His heart pounded, ears ringing. Lightning split the sky, and for a moment the wreck was illuminated, and in the driver's seat sat a man. Middle-aged, neatly combed hair, a faint smile. Tom? Caleb blinked. The seat was empty. His stomach flipped. He slammed the gas, desperate to outrun whatever nightmare this was. Hours later, pale and shaking, he finally pulled into a diner in the next town. He told the waitress everything. The station, the attendant, the storm, the wreck. She listened silently, then frowned. There isn't a gas station on Route 19, not for 80 miles. Caleb's hands shook. No, I was just there. I filled up, I paid. He pulled the slip from his pocket, but it wasn't a receipt. It was a folded piece of paper. On it, in neat block letters, were 3 words. Caleb stared at it, trembling, the words burning into him like a brand. When he looked up, the diner's front window reflected his pale face. And for just a second, behind his own reflection, another stood, a man in a red polo, smiling. You've just crossed the boundary between reality and the unknown. If you felt the fear tonight, make sure to subscribe before you leave, because on this channel, every story is just the beginning. New nightmares arrive every few nights, each one darker than the last. Until then, keep your lights low, your doors locked, and your mind open. You are now part of the FearBound family.